My name is Mikhail, and for 20 years I lived in a marriage that on the outside seemed perfect, but inside had long since turned into a labyrinth of lies and unspoken truths. Everyone always thought I had a wonderful wife, great children, a successful career. And part of that was true. But only part. I started cheating on Anna almost by accident. Encounters with women at work seemed fleeting, a way to release tension. I always told myself, it means nothing. The family is what matters. But with each new affair, I grew more and more distant from home. Anna, it seemed to me, noticed nothing. She was always calm, too calm. But perhaps I underestimated her. One day, when I returned from a business trip, something in her eyes had changed. No tears, no outburst, only silence and a slight, almost invisible smile. That was the first time I wondered, what if she knows? I wanted to leave. I had a woman for whom I was ready to put an end to it all. I was already preparing to file for divorce, but she left me. She said I would never dare to change, that I was too attached to a comfortable life. And she was right. I went back to Anna, told her I had thought it through and didn't want to destroy the family. She smiled again, but now that smile frightened me. There was something in it that I couldn't understand. Over time, I began to notice strange things. Late-night calls, letters she hid. And I realized, Anna had her own secret life. That hit harder than any exposure. I had always considered myself the hunter and her the keeper of the hearth. But it turned out she had been playing her own game all along. Now I live as if in a play. Anna and I perform the roles of a loving couple for friends and children. But each of us knows the truth. Our marriage became something like a duel, where no one gives up and no one wins. And here is what's strange, sometimes I think I love her precisely for this. For being stronger and more cunning than I thought. For teaching me to fear her silence more than any words. Mikhail, I'm not telling this to justify myself. I just wanted someone to know, behind a perfect photograph there can always be a story of betrayal, jealousy, and quiet revenge. I had been silent for a long time. For years. Lying to myself, to my children, to my friends. But one day I realized, if I lived even one more day in this performance, I would completely lose myself. I decided to change everything. In the evening, when the kids were at their friend's place, I sat across from Anna. As usual, she poured tea and smiled her cold, calm smile. I took a deep breath and said, Mikhail, once I loved you. Then I hated you. Then I pitied you. And then I decided it was easier to keep the marriage than to ruin everything. But let's be honest, we've been strangers for a long time. Those words struck harder than any confession. Strangers. And what now? I asked. She looked out the window and said quietly, we have two paths. The first, to continue the play for the sake of family and habit. The second, to destroy everything and start anew, each with our own life. I realized, I had no choice. Either I stayed in the shadows, or I leapt into the unknown. For the first time in 20 years, I felt I wanted to take the risk. Let it hurt, let it be shameful, but at least it would be honest. Then let's destroy it, I said. Anna nodded, and in her eyes, I saw a flicker of relief. The divorce was quick and surprisingly quiet. No shouting, no scenes, no fights over property. We just signed the papers and walked out of the courtroom, like two actors exhausted from a long performance. Anna stayed in the house with the children, and I rented a small apartment downtown. The first weeks were hard. The silence was maddening. I was used to coming home to a place that smelled of dinner, where voices filled the rooms. Now, the walls of my apartment were silent. I thought I would lose everything. But with each passing day, the silence became freedom. For the first time in years, I began reading the books I had set aside, walking alone through the city, meeting my children without the tension that had always hung in our home. Anna changed too. It was as if she had taken off a heavy mask. Our children said, Mom laughs more often now. I saw her a couple of times with that same university friend, and honestly, it didn't hurt. Instead, I felt calm. She really had her own life, carefully hidden all those years. And I found a new story too. Not passion, not a fleeting affair, but a woman who saw me not as a husband, not as a father, not as a boss, but simply as a man. With her, I wasn't afraid to be weak. Sometimes I wonder, was it worth keeping each other in a cage for so many years? Maybe we should have ended it sooner. But perhaps those 20 years shaped who we are now. Now I know one thing. Honesty is scarier than lies, but only it brings freedom. And maybe our long marriage was built on deception, but it taught me the most important lesson: no performance is worth losing yourself.